Good morning, people. I want to take you into the book of Joshua today. We finished Deuteronomy talking about the tests that Moses went through. His final test was the test of finishing well. He failed once, paid the price for it, but what a great man. What a tough act to follow. And so I kind of feel really sorry almost in a deep way for Joshua, who was told by God, Moses is now dead and you are the man to lead the children of Israel. In Joshua chapter 1, we have one of the most quoted, one of the most named and claimed promises in the entire Bible. Everybody wants to claim this promise, but I'm not sure that everybody is legitimately able to do that. God gave to Joshua this beautiful promise when he saw how nervous Joshua was about saying, man, I've got to take over from Moses. He's a tough active follower. He's got shoes so big. I'm not sure I'm ever going to fit into his shoes. But God sees his nervousness and gives him this great promise. He says, Joshua chapter 1 verse 6, it's a great promise. Be careful if you want to claim it. He says, be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their forefathers to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Do not let this book of the law depart from your mouth. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. That's just the most amazing promise that God gave to Joshua. Now, as I say, a lot of people have tried to claim this promise, and I think sometimes we have to acknowledge this was a promise specifically given to Joshua. If you feel that you can claim it, then you better fulfill the criteria as we read them here. There are a couple of things that we read about in this beautiful, beautiful promise. It's that be careful part that makes me nervous. He says, be bold, be strong, but be careful. Be very careful. And you say, well, what do I have to be careful for? Well, first of all, he says to be careful that you obey the word of God. Remember, we spoke yesterday of Moses writing the law, telling the people what they had to do to obey the law, and the continual reminder to feed their souls on the law of God. Be careful for that. That's the first thing. And the second thing is this: be careful not to act impulsively. When Joshua was given this promise, it's not something we just throw out willy-nilly and say, I'm going to claim that promise and I'm going to be courageous that everywhere I go God is going to give to me. That may or that may not be true. But when you act impulsively on great promises like this, you could find yourself sometimes in a troublesome situation. Have a look at David in 2 Samuel chapter 6. He acted impulsively. He wanted to move the Ark of the Covenant from where it was to Jerusalem. And so in his impulsiveness, he built a cart. He put an ox in front of it. He had them put the ark on the cart, and he pulled it towards Jerusalem. And then as the ark was bouncing around on the back of this ox cart, it was about to fall off. And a man, Uzzah, with great intention, reached out to stop the Ark of the Covenant from falling off the cart. And God struck him dead. And David was amazed. He said, God, what are you doing? How mean are you? This man just had good intention, and God said nothing. And then David went back, and one day he's reading the book of the law, and he reads about how you're meant to take the Ark of the Covenant. It's meant to be carried on the shoulders of the priests, not in a cart drawn by an ox. And David thought, man, if only I'd read this, if only I hadn't acted so impulsively, if only I just read the book and found out what God really wanted me to do, Uzzah would still be alive. And I would not be embarrassed before God that I've been angry with him because of this. Be very careful, people, about acting impulsively when you feel that God may be saying something to you. Check it out first. Be careful to reminisce and read the law. The second thing is, never be presumptuous. As David would have been presumptuous. God, you've blessed me all this time. You've been with me all the time. You helped me to defeat Goliath. You've helped me to win all the wars. I'm just presuming that you're going to be with me as we move this Ark of the Covenant. Nah, that's not the right thing to do. Every action that we need to take, every mission that we go on, everything that we want to do for God, never just presume on the presence of God and His blessing. There's work to be done. There's prayer that needs to be entered into. Don't be like Samson, who messed around. And when he had this issue with his hair and he told her do this, do that, and he played this game with the Philistines, and then eventually, after Delilah had nagged him so much, he told her what had happened. And he told her that if you cut my hair, I'm a Nazarite, then I'll be as weak as any other man. And unfortunately, he was. He was as weak as any other man. He presumed on the blessing of God. He presumed that as God had been with him in the other test, that he could play this stupid game, and he messed up badly. And the most tragic words, and you know them well, I'm sure, of Samson is, and after they had cut his hair and the Philistines had bound him up with ropes and taken him away, the sad thing was he did not know that God was not with him anymore. That's a really tough one. He didn't know that God was not with him anymore. Never presume on the presence of God. Hear from Him. Don't be too quick to claim promises that you have been promised to somebody else. They were promised to them. Go and get your own promise, and then you confirm it with the promise of people like Joshua. So let's never act outside of the law. Let's never act impulsively. Let's never presume on the presence of God. Let's make sure we can tick those 3 boxes, and then we can go and save the world. Have a fantastic day, people. Cheers.